Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
All of today's guests, including Thomas Drance, standing by. Brought to you by the Vancouver Giants. And again, we're going to have Giants coach Manny Viveros on in the 11 o'clock hour. Get your season tickets for as low as $17 per game, or pick up a White Spot pack, which includes 4 tickets and a $40 White Spot gift card starting at $125. Get all of the details at vancouvergiants.com/tickets. Delaney's OK Tire and Langley inbox. 39 goals, exclamation mark. Let him do what he wants. Shade from IHOP.
Yeah. Oh, IHOP. I love IHOP. It's good.
Shade's having some fun.
I know he is.
Speaking of fun, from The Athletic, Thomas Drance, how are you, sir?
Doing well, gentlemen. Getting ready to head up to Penticton, wearing my finest for the wineries. This weekend should be a nice time. I love the Prospect tournament. Honestly, the best way to start the hockey season. Should be exciting.
Yeah, and you will be covering hockey on top of going to the wineries. Which Canucks prospect are you most excited, I guess I'll use that word, to check out up in Penticton?
I think I'm going to have to go with Hunter Brustevich, which was their 3rd-round pick in Nashville. You know, the Canucks are going to probably win a fair few games at this tournament, but largely that's because they have a pretty experienced roster relative to what the other prospect entries from the Jets, Flames, and Oilers will be. You know, you're going to have a 24-year-old in Akito Hirose who's played 7 NHL games, won't be stunned if he only plays 2 of 3 or maybe even 1, given that he's got bigger fish to fry at Canucks main camp. You've got players like Arshdeep Bains who have AHL, full season of AHL experience, earned his way up the lineup. You know, this level, he should dominate. And the Canucks have a lot of prospects that profile that way. Brustevich is in a different bucket. Brustevich is, going into his draft plus 1 season. He's 18. This is a guy with a fair bit of upside in my view. But, this is the sort of tournament where if he really performs well, that to me is really meaningful. That to me begins to suggest that the Canucks may have a steal on their hands, which is, an opinion that I'm certainly open to already, based on what he did with the Kitchener Rangers in the OHL last season, his scoring profile, what I hear about the personality, the way he interviewed, my interactions with him, and what I saw at Dev Camp. So really excited to see him get a chance to put it together up in Penticton this weekend.
3rd-round draft choice in 2023, 75th overall, right-handed defenseman, a subject we just brought up in the previous segment. Okay, Andrei Kuzmenko, all reports is that he's fitter. No more waffles. Does that mean another 39-goal season?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And, the thing with Kuzmenko is he had a historic shooting percentage last season. Like, he could improve. He could be a better player this upcoming season. And, in fact, I wouldn't put that beyond the realm of what we should reasonably expect, and still not get to 39 goals, right? It's really hard to score that many goals in the NHL. It's especially that hard to do it while shooting 25% and having a really low volume. Like, his shot volume's really low, which, by the way, isn't necessarily a concern. We've seen guys, be really prolific, top of the lineup players with low shot volume. I think of 2 guys who I often think of when I watch Kuzmenko play anyway. I think of Andrew Brunette. You remember the former Wild and Colorado Avalanche power winger? Yeah. He was an unbelievable playmaker from the net front, right? Like, just unbelievable, and was the master at just getting his stick loose for one of his playmaking teammates, often Joe Sakic, to just sort of put it on his tape and he'd have those backdoor goals. Kuzmenko has a lot of Brunette in his game. Likewise, I think about Alex Tanguay. Right, Alex Tanguay had the lefty shooter, often played the right side, had that knack for threading passes through coverage, finding his teammates in sort of soft areas of defensive zone coverage. Kuzmenko has some of that. Like, I sort of look at Kuzmenko, and those are 2 guys I often think about as being comps when I watch him, just stylistically. And if you go look at their sort of history, like, Andrew Brunette had his breakout season at roughly the same age Kuzmenko did, at the age of 20, 6, and he put up, 70-ish points for the Jacques Lemaire Wild. And by the way, putting up 70 points for the Jacques Lemaire Wild, that's like putting up 110 points in the contemporary NHL. And, he did it with shooting percentage. He did it with efficiency. He did it with a low shot rate. The next 2 seasons, 45 points, right? And then he hit those highs again after he was traded to Colorado when he found that chemistry with Joe Sakic. Tanguay likewise, right? Like the thing with the efficiency master profile, right? The guys who really defy gravity, the guys who are converting opportunistically as opposed to just sort of throwing a lot at the net and doing that consistently, is that sometimes their production can be a little bit more volatile. Sometimes year over year, the bounces come or the bounces don't. And people don't understand this either. It's not just the conversion, like it's not just the goals that can regress. It's the chances. It's that, we might not see Kuzmenko score 9, backdoor tap-ins this year. Like a lot has to go right for those opportunities to be there. So I won't be stunned if Kuzmenko is better than he was last season and still doesn't match his first year production. And I'm really curious to see what the conversation will be like in a world where Kuzmenko is, a more well-rounded two-way player and yet only hits, say, 30 goals, 35 assists. Because to me, that would still be a smashing success. Will the market understand that? How will it impact the conversation we have around him? That's sort of something that I'm going to be watching for from Kuzmenko, particularly given the shape that he appears to be in and the evident skill that we see when he's on the ice.
Thomas, tomorrow is the day that Tyler Myers gets his bonus. What do you see happening there with him? He's in the final year of his deal.
There are 4 teams in the NHL, Rick, that have $6 million or more in cap space.
Yeah.
4.
Yeah.
So what do I see happening? I don't think it's a difficult one to handicap, right? Like the price on this particular betting market, should be weighted heavily toward him staying a Vancouver Canuck for the start of the season. I'd also mention this for as oft maligned as Tyler Myers is, especially for his defensive play. He led all Canucks defensemen in ice time shorthanded after Rick Tocchet and Adam Foote took over by 30 minutes. 30 minutes. So in Rick Tocchet's 32 games coaching this team, Tyler Myers played roughly 90 minutes shorthanded. The next closest Canucks defenseman was Quinn Hughes at 60. I mean, that's a huge gap, gentlemen. Like, that's a gap that tells you that whatever you may say about Tyler Myers, and I don't mean you two gentlemen, I mean the fans. I'm talking directly to the fans here. No matter what you may think of Tyler Myers in his defensive game, he clearly has the trust of Canucks coaches. There isn't enough money in the system for him to be easily traded at this point of the year. The Canucks don't have a third right-handed defenseman that you feel really comfortable about being in the lineup on day one, aside from Myers and Filip Hronek. And, for a variety of reasons, it's a deal that even if the club was motivated to deal him, and I do think they have been at various times over the last 18 months, even if they were motivated to move him, the deal makes the most sense, is easiest to execute, is most likely to return you something of value 5-6 months from now, right? Like closer to the trade deadline as opposed to right now. So I would be, I wouldn't say my jaw would hit the floor if Tyler Myers is dealt, but I would expect that he is a Canuck to open the campaign.
Yeah, I agree.
And very quickly, Thomas, Mike Babcock, Paul Bissonnette, what's your read on what's happening in Columbus and PhoneGate?
Well, I think it's interesting that the PA is there, clearly taking it pretty seriously. I think it's good that players have a outlet to make sure that any behavior from coaches that crosses the line or doesn't respect player boundaries gets out there. I don't know that I love or admire the way this came out. I don't know that I can think of a context in which asking to see photos on someone's phone makes a lot of sense socially. Like it makes sense for me as a group building activity. For example, if you're like, everyone submit 4 photos and we're going to go through them and talk about who we are as people. That makes sense. But to spring it on people, like, I don't understand the context in which that's like a socially acceptable thing to do. Like, no matter what context that happens to me in, I'm going to think it's weird at the very least. So we'll see how it plays out. It's it's a weird one. Like, it's just a strange one, and yet completely unsurprising based on, a 2-decade-long track record of often troubling, or certainly behavior that his players have found troubling from Mike Babcock.
Yeah.
Thomas, thanks for this. We'll talk to you. Today's Thursday. We'll talk to you next Friday, I believe. Thanks for this.
Let's go. We'll be at training camp. Guys, it's moving fast. We're getting there.
Yeah.
Safe travels
in Victoria. Thanks, Thomas.
Thanks,
Appreciate
boys.
that.
Be
Like
well.
Rick said, safe travels up to Penticton.